Good morning, everyone. Welcome for joining us at this live webinar where we're going to be looking at how forward-thinking finance leaders plan for business agility. Basically going to focus on quick introductions of who we are as Decision Inc. or formerly IBM Systems, and focus a little bit on the as-is versus the to-be of finance and FP&A. We're also going to talk a little bit around how to cross that divide, because we take notice of the fact that a lot of organisations are still embarking on this journey, and there's quite a bit to be done to get to that end destination. As Decision Inc., we are a global technology and digital transformation organisation, and we focus on helping our clients reimagine their digital future. We use technology to empower our clients to run their digital operating models. And I'm Lindy Miller. I've been with IBM Systems or Decision Inc. Australia for the last year. I've been working in FP&A solutions for the last probably 10 years of my life. A lot of those delivered from our Joburg office, and I'm privileged to be helping Australian clients. With me today on the call, we have Tim Rosser as well. Tim is our COO. He started his journey as an FP&A consultant, and he's absolutely passionate about finance transformation. I always joke that you could almost confuse Tim for an accountant, but he's not. As well as our team member Rakesh, probably last but not least on this, we have him available to help us navigate this world of advanced analytics. Rakesh is in our digital team, or our business analytics team and our data science team. And if we have any questions specific to that, Rakesh is available to help us answer any of those questions that you might have. So as we proceed, we as Decision Inc., we're embracing the fourth digital revolution. And this is also known as the digital age or the data age. And we help our clients become digital businesses. So how do we do this? We work with technologies, and these are leading edge technologies. We focus and invest a lot of time in selecting those technology partners, and we really become specialists in the field of implementing those technologies. We combine that with our knowledge, specific IP that we've developed over the years that we've been in existence. And this is also a new space for us as Decision Inc., as we've recently launched our Decision Inc. Knowledge portal, which is called Knowledge Inc. And Tim is also our knowledge ambassador locally. So he's either the most intelligent person or the most informed and knowledgeable person in our team, but he's responsible to make sure that we take our solutions back into this knowledge portal and make it available to the global team, and likewise our global team bring their knowledge and abilities and solutions into this knowledge base for us to have access to. So this is exciting for us. It's a game changer. It allows us to differentiate ourselves from any other consulting firm or team out there. Our talent, I've mentioned Rakesh and if I look at him and his passion for what he does and his skills and his ability to help clients not just look at technology, but look at the solution that technologies deliver. We have a broad range of skill sets and people in our team that with a variety of diverse talents. And I'm excited to be part of this team to bring this to our clients, to help them on their digital journey. How do we do this? It really depends on where our clients find themselves on this digital journey. It could be as high level as focusing on your strategy, understanding what your data strategy should be or could be, or down to a lower level of operational solution, focusing just on a point solution in a specific problem within your organization to help enhance or improve a specific area. We do this and we execute this with different delivery capabilities and delivery models. And we scale this to your requirements, and we make sure that we focus on your specific environment when we suggest solutions. So I've mentioned our capabilities, and these capabilities sit within our different divisions within Decision Inc. Today we're focusing specifically on what FP&A offers, but we wouldn't be able to do this without acknowledging our technology partners. And I think if you look at this, the names on this list, it is well-known leading organizations that's really helping us transform the way clients become digital businesses. So who are our clients? I think you'll recognize quite a few international clients on this list, well-known international organizations. We have more than 450 around the globe, and they basically in some core industries, and these are the industries that we've managed to build up some specific knowledge and skill and understanding, and we've become specialists in that through our knowledge portal. You'd also be able to identify the local clients. Just looking at the names on the list, they're quite prominent. So if we move on, so what does this mean in terms of FP&A, and what is the transformation? I think I've recently seen a survey where the question was asked, what is finance transformation? And one of the options was, who knows? And that was actually the option that was most selected. So I think it is a bit of a foreign concept, and it is something that we maybe need to just spend a little bit of time to unpack. So research is showing that the Office of Finance is changing fundamentally. Finance 2.0 is a shift from doing the traditional finance activities to becoming more value-added strategic business partners to our organizations. For this discussion today, we're going to focus on three key concepts that's influencing this change within finance. The first being the role of the CFO will change, and it is changing. CFOs will become more strategic. They'll be spending less time in traditional finance functions. The second to this is that digital transformation will be the enabler to allow the Office of Finance to become more strategic. And the game changer for finance would be the application of automation and artificial intelligence. Finance teams that embrace this will differentiate themselves as being the leaders in this space. And this is the exciting part. We will have this capability, and we can apply this technology to enhance what we do and create more value within our organization. I think if we look at FP&A traditionally, it's really been focused on the process, getting data, consolidating it, putting it into the reporting view that we need, and then delivering it to our stakeholders. And I think going forward, that's going to change significantly. Planning is going to be focusing on the data that it's creating instead of managing, or FP&A is going to be focusing on the data that's been created during that process, and it's going to be less about the process. So it's more going to be focusing on what we can get as an output, the insights that we could generate from that, and less about the process of getting it done at this point. I think if you look at what the research is saying is that by 2024, 70% of FP&A projects will become extended planning and analysis projects. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to be extending beyond traditional finance planning. We're going to be extending into operational planning, and we need to integrate those operational plans back into our financial platform. I think when I think about this scenario, it's probably mining is one that comes to mind, where you would have your mine operational plans, and we don't always tie them back into the financial impact of those operational activities. So this is where the game changer will be going forward, and agility will come into place when we have the ability to connect those two worlds. If we also look at it beyond just traditional planning, where we have the addition of applying machine learning to enhance the way we plan and to give us accuracy and speed and the relevance of planning. But it's not replacing what we're doing, it's enhancing. It's giving us the ability to just look at probabilities in a different way than what we've done to date. Now, with the addition of AI-driven forecasting, we could have probability analysis analytics done on a daily basis. And this could be based on real-time operational data that was captured yesterday, and now we're looking at how that's influenced our forecast and how that will influence the future what we've planned to achieve. And this is exciting. It's new. It's something that we need to embrace, and we need to understand, how do we bring this into reality and create that real-time agile planning environment that's more dynamic than what we've seen to date. Where are we at the moment? And I think that it's a moment to just reflect on why this has become so important. I think we've had overwhelming interest in this webinar, and the topic is so relevant to where finance are finding themselves today. And as Australia is facing the first recession in 30 years, we all know that the pandemic has created global disruption. And we're all in a space where there's a lot of uncertainty because the new normal is still unfolding. We don't have the answers, and we don't know exactly what the future would look like. We've seen a fundamental change in the way certain industries operate, and I think that change is going to continue going forward. But we, as finance leaders, have the opportunity and the responsibility to help organizations make the right decisions, to guide our teams in a proactive way, to focus on making the decisions that will allow us to come back stronger and build the organizations that we want to see in the future. And I think, coming from finance myself, I understand that that's probably a little bit easier said than done. And I think one of the challenges we face with this is traditional planning is in many ways still a bit of a binary process. We look at planning in one or two ways. It's either to assume that the world is entirely certain and therefore open to exact predictions about the future, or we look at it as completely unsure and uncertain, and focusing on that prefix of un, which is it's not certain. And I think in that it could lead us to a scenario where we are unable to defend against threats or take advantage of potential opportunities that disruption and uncertainty presents. I think at this point, an example that comes to mind, and this is something that a lot of us are familiar with, is the Kodak story. Kodak's story of failing has its roots in its success. It made it reluctant to change. They didn't fail because they missed the digital opportunity or the digital age in photography. They actually invented the first digital camera, which that to me was quite a surprise. But they missed the opportunity because they missed looking at what the change in the digital market will present to them as a potential new avenue. They didn't want to market the new technology because they had this fear about the impact that it's going to have on their current business, and they were reluctant to move. And I think if they took a different view to this and started looking at probabilities and scenarios, they could have looked at a probability or scenario where if this market does shift and it does become so prevalent that people will move into digital photography and move away from film, what would that mean to us? How do we manage that? How do we leverage that, and how do we become the leaders in that space? And that's just another scenario that they needed to take into account. So that's what forward thinking comes down to. It's the ability to not just look at it in that binary way, but start looking at probabilities, assessing scenarios, and finding ways to move forward, even though we're facing a lot of uncertainty. I know that this is probably easier to put in a PowerPoint presentation than what it is to bring into reality when we implement it in our organizations. And I think I just want to take a moment to look at why that is so challenging in many instances. We implement FP&A solutions, and we work with teams that they find themselves in this environment where we have different solutions with valuable data sitting in different spaces within our organization. We even find instances where we're looking at Excel as a data source that's being utilized within FP&A. We are, as FP&A teams, we're responsible for certain outputs via processes that we need to conclude every month, and we're responsible to stakeholders within our organization. But various stakeholders, looking for different levels of information at different times within our planning cycles. And as Decision Inc., when we go into our clients and we start working with FP&A teams, we still find environments or scenarios where there's a lot of reliance on point solutions, Excel planning models. There's a disconnect between the operational environments, and we have a lot of people who are very sentimental about the advanced Excel models, and it doesn't set finance up to become the custodians and the owners of this planning process. It doesn't allow for agility. I've worked with organizations where finance teams almost have a bad reputation within the organization because they're not seen as business partners. They're viewed not to understand what the business actually does. And it's just because we're not allowed to get into that world, because we spend our time collating, gathering, putting data together in processes that just does not give us the ability to become agile and dynamic in the way we should. This environment, it leads to slow planning. The information is stale by the time we get it into a consolidated view, and please don't ask us to change it at the last minute, because that means we need to go back to various different Excel planning models to get you to that new result. It's a disconnected process. It doesn't give us a holistic view, and it's very reactive with a low level of collaboration across the organization. So this is sometimes referred to as Excel hell, and I think a lot of organizations unfortunately still find themselves in this space. So for us to become forward-thinking finance leaders, it is about identifying the opportunity to bring these different planning worlds, operational planning environments, into a single unified platform, where the moment we have an impact in one operational area, we can immediately see the downstream result in terms of the financial deliverables with financial three-way reporting. So this creates an environment where we can start collaborating. We have the ability to start looking at different scenarios. We can look at global assumptions and how that influences the numbers. We know which levers to flex and to change to give us an instantaneous view of what that would look like in terms of the changes that was made. So with that, with the implementation of this foundation, it allows us to have more relevant information, to become integrated and continuous in our planning cycles. And that's just what agile planning is about. It's the ability to make quick changes, to derive decisions or actions from that, and change direction, go back if we need to. It obviously increases our accuracy because we don't have the Excel or the errors and the risk that sits in that manual world. And ultimately, it does reduce the time to plan because you don't have to follow all the manual processes that we're used to seeing. So how do we help our clients as Decision Inc.? And based on our years of experience, we've been on this journey and we've worked with a lot of clients who have become our partners in this journey. And it's understanding that it's not just taking technology and applying a technology to achieve a result, but it is a holistic view, a holistic process where we look at opportunities to optimize the current processes. We apply technology to that to solve specific business problems. We design solutions with our specialist skills to allow for quick value to our clients. We cater our solutions specifically to your requirements. We focus on what's best fit in terms of technology that we select. And we apply our technical skills to help clients to move away from being operationally involved and operationally focused to becoming strategic in our intent and to add value to our organization. So some of the value that we've delivered to our clients, and this is what you can expect from that implementation of your foundation planning, is just taking your time to plan. I mean, that's the most simple in terms of improvement. And in some instances, we've reduced it with 60%. The ability to plan on a lower level of detail, I think, to have those operational drivers, to flex them, to change them, and to see the impact of that as enhanced planning and costing at some of our manufacturing clients with 94%. Flexibility, making decision-making, making visible the influencing factors within our organisation, and just decreasing the time spent being transactional and moving into becoming value-added business partners to our organisation. So, looking at the journey that finance is on, and Finance 2.0 is the future of finance. As much as I mentioned before, it's not about technology. This journey is basically enabled by technology. And I want to spend a minute just to go through how FP&A has matured and how this maturity has been underpinned by the changes that we've seen in technology or planning platforms. I know when I started off in my FP&A many moons ago, probably about 12 years back, I still had the responsibility to do manual planning at a large IT organisation based in Joburg, South Africa. And I had the responsibility to consolidate 150 different cost centres into one consolidated budget, and it was done very manually. So that was kind of the first generation where we had planning applications where we were able to start moving that into a planning application, and we had the ability to do aggregation, basic variance reporting. And that was kind of the first step into this unified planning world that we see today. If we look at how that progressed and the next level to that in terms of maturity, later on applications started looking at adding dashboarding, and we had this visualization of our data, which helped a lot in consuming it. And we were able to start looking at consolidation and different iterations of our versions that we're planning and consolidating. And then we also had activity-based planning or activity-based costing, and that was basically driver-based, where we started looking at the lower level of detail. If I look at where we are today and what planning applications and platforms deliver today, and this is the third generation of planning that we're seeing in terms of capability, it's clear that the move is moving away from that operational space into looking forward and focusing on the insights that is supported by the data within that platform. And Finance 2.0 is really just focusing on where we can find optimizations or improvements, and how those improvements could be invested back into the organization to increase profits. And ultimately, if we look at that, the progression has been to become more agile and ultimately deliver value to our organizations, to optimize value. So I think there's a bit of a futuristic view in terms of this, and it's exciting to know what tools we have available as finance individuals. And I mean, we know that the research says that 70% of all FP&A projects in the future or processes will include machine learning or artificial intelligence. And I thought I'll spend a bit of time just explaining some of these concepts. Some of them we kind of familiar with, but some of it is actually fairly new to the world of FP&A. If we look at artificial intelligence, and Rakesh and I had a conversation yesterday, I don't think I could do this topic justice in the amount of time that I've planned to discuss this. I think that could be a whole different webinar, and it deserves that because it is a bit of a science as well. But if we look at it from an FP&A specific perspective and what we have available in our planning platforms today, I want to just take you through some of the key concepts. It's basically divided into two groups, but it consists of robotic process automation, which is effectively focusing on enhancing the planning process, data analytics, which enables us to view our data, consume our data, and understand, have a finger on the pulse of our organization, understand what's happening, become a bit more proactive in our decision making. And then the futuristic view, which is the new and exciting space for us as FP&A, which is predictive analytics, and how this machine learning capability uses our past data to inform our future decisions and actions. So all of this, it's basically just understanding the process and finding enhancements in that, utilizing our data and our ability to then derive and make decisions and insights from that. So if we can quickly just go through, I think RPA, our digital assistant, these are all the millennials will know these, Siri and Alexa and Cortana, and this changes the way we engage with our application. I was a little bit concerned with the fact that they're all female, so I thought, let me just introduce maybe one that's a little bit more familiar and not female, Dexter. I believe all Australian non-millennials will identify Dexter as being probably the earliest version of Office Assistant or digital assistant. And these applications help us change the way we engage with technology. I remember being a financial controller and not having the ability to get to anything within SAP ECC without a very specific transaction code. There was just no way of navigating your way through that application if you were unfamiliar with very specific codes. So I would have a list of codes that I would utilize every month, and you get to know them. But I think the world is changing, and the way we're going to start engaging with these applications is going to be significantly different in the future. If we move on, I think if we look at RPA, or robotic process automation, the use case that comes to mind that's probably the most prominent and prevalent to finance is the automation of your financial close process. We've seen companies reduce time to close significantly through the implementation of a platform that helps you eliminate repetitive mundane tasks. RPA is automating human repeatable tasks. And Rakesh mentioned to me yesterday that it's even as advanced as not just looking at what's within that application, but automating tasks that could be potentially outside of the application. So if you are downloading foreign exchange currencies on a website and you're saving it in a folder to be utilized by an application, and this is something that you do every month, RPA has the ability to automate that. And you would never have to do it. You could just basically validate that, yes, it's been downloaded, the process executed successfully, and my information is available for us to proceed. Gartner's research actually stipulates that finance organizations could save 25,000 hours of avoidable rework caused by human errors by deploying RPA. So I think that we have to think about a lot of those processes that we know we do as almost tick box exercises on a month-to-month basis. We have accountants who spend a lot of time becoming capable and competent, investing in education, and finding themselves doing a lot of stuff that could be automated, that can free up time to start looking at how do we influence and not just report on our organization's results. And that takes us into how would we do that, and what do we have available to help us be more efficient and agile in that space. And this is where analytics comes into play. All of the third generation planning applications have this as a key capability now, and it's all in one unified platform. So this gives us the ability to look at what has happened. It's still based on historical events. I think in the past we would look at quarter end, and maybe now we've moved into month end. But with this we could actually even have a daily view, and we can see what's happened within our organization on a daily basis. And this could influence decision making and help us to become more proactive in changing what month end could potentially look like. We've seen these enhancements, and I know that this is an area that all our technology partners are investing in, and I'm excited to see how this is going to change the way we consume data going forward. An additional component to analytics is the ability to give us diagnosis. So these applications now gives us insights into what happened in the data, why did we see the changes we've seen. And it is just a question of drilling into the data points, and it gives us that insights. So it saves a lot of time in finding the story within our data. This also enables operations to look at data and KPIs the way finance would, because that information would be there for them to consume and unpack in the same way that finance would be looking at what's the underlying drivers, what caused this. So that's, again, saves a lot of time, gives us instant insights, and helps us make decisions on a proactive manner. If we look at the futuristic view, and this is the predictive component, predictive analytics uses past data to predict future outcomes before they happen. And this gives us the opportunity to optimize. If I think about an example, for instance, if you look at your marketing campaigns, how would that impact sales? This is also, I think, the space that will allow us to change scenario planning. It's not something that we find that we have a lot of manual work to create these scenarios. Rakesh and I discussed a little bit yesterday how introducing different variables into your predictive analytics could help you identify business drivers. I think we discussed, flight times, for instance. If we fly at 9 o'clock in the morning as an executive team versus 9:30, how would that change? How would that influence our travel expenses? And I know that's a very, very basic example, but there are many examples of that where, instead of going into that very detailed activity-based costing and understanding and planning down to the lowest level of business operational levers, we can find them in a quick, intuitive way by introducing them into our predictive models. If we move on, and this is kind of the most advanced space within predictive analytics, it's prescriptive analytics, and this is something that we're not seeing a lot of yet, but it's definitely something that will become more prevalent in our planning applications. And it's not just focusing on what has happened, but also what we should do to achieve those outcomes. It will give us insights into making specific decisions. And maybe just going back again to our example of running a marketing campaign, it could be as specific as saying promoting a specific product within a specific region between a date set, and it could give you the insights into what that would mean to the bottom line, which is phenomenal to think. But this is a journey, and you're not going to start at this point. You build it up to get to a point where you have enough data to get to these insights, but it's definitely something that is going to be relevant, and it is going to be available to planning teams to utilize going forward. I think personally, when I looked at this information and I put the slides together, it was always about what is the use case and how do we bring this back to finance. And I know operational divisions utilizes advanced analytics a lot, and I think for finance, we have an opportunity. If I just think about accounts receivable and how that could potentially help us optimize our cash flow planning. So if we could have a bit of visibility on what accounts receivable would look like in the future, that could help us have a little bit more control over our cash flow forecasting, for instance, or automating a component of our cash flow forecasting. So I have a few other use cases, and Rakesh is also available to maybe answer any questions that you might have in our Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if this is an area that you want to be discussing a little bit more, happy to have those conversations to take you through some of the use cases and value that we have created for clients specifically in this space. So moving on, I've just mentioned that this is a journey, it's not a destination. And how do we get there is a question that I think we need to have a quick discussion about. We as Decision Inc. go into our clients and we don't just come with a preconceived idea of how we want to do this. It's really a bit of a consulting engagement. We need to understand where you are, what you have available to you as an organization, and what your strategic objectives are, maybe in the shorter and longer term, to allow to plan for that future. We typically early on in this process start looking at what technology suits your requirements best, and then we go into modernizing. It could be as simple as taking what you have already and enhancing that, or adding new finance platforms to allow for enhanced planning. So we go through this process and with the view of always optimizing your process efficiency, finding the ways to enhance your planning environment, and then ultimately giving you the ability to have that analysis and reporting in a flexible, agile way. The next step to that would be optimization, and I think a lot of what we've just discussed in the previous few slides fits into this space. What is the next frontier, and how do you enhance what you have and get better insights out of that? So that's how we take our clients on this journey to becoming more agile and forward-thinking planning environments. It's an holistic approach, and we absolutely have to acknowledge that we need the data to be able to do this. So we focus a lot of time in helping you unpack the data that's available to you and the data that's needed to drive those decisions. It's when we look at process enhancements as well, we look at that as a holistic view. We look at the way you budget, the way you forecast, and the way you report, and find ways to optimize and enhance those holistically. And then I think that maybe a component that we haven't touched much on is enhancing the way people work within these processes. We take the finance team on a journey with us. As Decision Inc., we have the implementation methodology. We focus on skills transfer. We enable finance teams to own the application and to get the best from that. And that's where we partner with our clients. We create this holistic approach, and we just don't focus on technology as an isolated solution to address your problems. But with that being said, we do have to acknowledge that our solutions are underpinned by technology. And when we go through this process with our clients and we focus on selecting the best technology for your specific problems, I think it's important to have a few basic criteria in mind. And we certainly use these when we decide which technology partners we want to partner with. So, and it is about having the ability to be scalable and future-proof. It needs to be flexible. So we need to have intuitive planning models. We need to be able to have various iterations and planning scenarios. It needs to be easy to use. And like I've mentioned, finance needs to be able to own this and run with it as an independent organization. It needs to have the rich capabilities and analysis capabilities, and some of which we've gone through. And I can also just maybe mention that all of those visualizations, all those little images that I've utilized are all from our current existing technology stack. So they are all within our third generation planning applications at the moment. And then of course, finance is about compliance, and we need to follow the rules, and we need to make sure that it has the integrity that is required. And that's the selection criteria we've used to select the partners that we've partnered with. And we are quite proud to have these partners on this journey with us in terms of finance transformation and digitalization. Looking forward to working with you. As I've mentioned, we've been in this for a while, and it would be our privilege to have a conversation about where you are in your finance transformation journey and how we could potentially assist you in that. Thank you.